Hi, this is a discussion of NAICS codes and what they mean. You're being asked to choose an industry based upon codes and industries that are defined by the government, and this is my attempt to help you understand how those definitions affect you in your selection of an industry for your research paper. The first thing is the NAICS codes system means the North American Industry Classification System. That is how the U.S. government is able to collect, analyze, and publish data related to the U.S. economy. The whole concept here is that they're able to describe parts of the industry based upon these industry codes, which have as a first definition a look at the type of business that the business is in or the industry is in, as opposed to how many people are in the industry or where the industry is located. So and you'll see this in just a little bit as we look at some of the codes themselves. The industries are based upon the nature of business that's being done as opposed to any other system that's out there. So take a look. These two-digit codes are the base of the whole system. It can go up to six-digit codes, and you'll get a look at some different types of classifications here. But the first thing is, take a look. Like Sector 11 is agriculture, forestry, fishing, and hunting, whereas Sector 42 is wholesale trade. That's trade between businesses, not retail trade, which tends to be within consumers. 44 and 45 is where those are. So the start of these codes is going to be a two-digit code that tells you what the major industry is all about. It can go up to 6 digits. We're going to use just 5 digits here, as you see finer and finer definitions of each of those industries. Note that, again, Sector 11 is a two-digit example, agriculture, forestry, fishing, and hunting. A sub-sector of that, or a sub-choice of that, would be a three-digit example, crop production. Crop production's within agriculture, but it's all within that same agriculture, forestry, fishing, and hunting. The four-digit example is a subcategory under crop production. So 11 is agriculture, forestry, fishing, and hunting. 111 is crop production. 1111 is oilseed and grain farming. And 11111, or 11,111, or however you want to say it, 11111, is soybean farming. That is a subsector of oilseed farming, which is a subsector of crop production, which is a subsector of agriculture, yada, yada, yada. Now, the definitions themselves for each of those areas are, as you see here. The agriculture, forestry, fishing, and hunting sector is defined as the sector that comprises establishments primarily engaged in growing crops, raising animals, blah, blah, blah. Crop production has its own sub-definition. Oilseed and grain farming, the same thing, a sub-definition. Down to soybean farming, this industry comprises establishments primarily engaged in growing soybeans and or producing soybean seeds. Now, the major sector, 11, agriculture, forestry, fishing, and hunting, excuse me, that's what happens in here. And you still get that part of, you still get that within this discussion. I'm a human being. You'll notice that 11 there, that's the major industry, has all these subsectors. If we went into the forestry, you'd see a whole different set of subsectors coming through, and fishing and hunting being the same thing. Now you may say, fishing and hunting, those are sports, those are for fun. That can't be real economics out there. Well, the truth is that there's a big fishing industry, and we're not talking you go out with your line and a pole and catch a bass on the weekend. We're talking about, well, you've seen the reality shows that are out there. You may not have watched them, but they're out there. And so anything that has to do with basically the gathering of basic food crops or animals in one form or a fashion is within this industry. We will go down to 4-digit codes. So you'd be choosing at the oilseed, grain, and farming. You might want to see the subsector of soybean farming, but you would not necessarily have to do that. In this situation, you could look at the subsectors if you wanted to, but you get to select the 4-digit code that you have the most interest in. It's important that you understand these definitions. Why? Because if you're not familiar with the industry, you may think it's about XYZ, and it's really about PDQ. Where can you go for information? Well, there's plenty of information at the government's website, census.gov, because the Census Bureau is the one that keeps track of all this information. That website is given on this sheet here. I would go to that, and you can search to your heart's content information about different kinds of industries. Now, it's going to give you the government's information. It's going to be dry and uninteresting, but at least you get a basic idea of what's out there. This is important stuff for your research paper. I need to know that you've searched through the government information to find information on your industry, as well as other articles that you're going to cite within your paper. But I need to know that you did at least take a look at what the government had to say. Then, as you're looking at your NAICS information, trying to make up your decision as to which industry to choose, look at the posted documents that I have for you on Blackboard, both the 4-digit codes file and the definition file. The 4-digit codes file is one that lists acceptable 4-digit codes, all the possible 4-digit codes that are out there that I consider to be acceptable for this type of paper. It's not all of the codes that are out there, but it's the ones that I consider to be most useful, and I think there's 8 pages of them. So if you can't find something to research on in 8 pages of codes, there's something seriously wrong. Now, you will have some restrictions. You will not be able to choose a code that was used in an industry paper last semester, in fact within the last 2 semesters. I do want some of your own research, and I do want there to be some usage of all kinds of different codes. There's 8 pages of codes. There's lots of codes out there that are of interest to you. When you go to make your selection, you'll see which ones are available. So I would look at a variety of codes there that may be of interest to you. The definition file is 500 plus pages long. Don't print this thing off, but it's there for you to be able to search and see what the government definitions are for you. So it's an easy to access file for you to pull up. Finally, I want you to consider these things in choosing your codes. You need an industry to choose that is a proper industry for analysis. So again, you need to choose from the codes that I give to you. But you're going to use the information that you are digging up all semester long on this in exams 2 and 3 as well, because I do expect you to respond to the questions that I provide with some background knowledge about your industries. Use what you give to me in exams 2 and 3 within your paper. I want you to make double use of that stuff. But you will need to have some research done before exams 2 and 3 come about. So choose something that's of interest to you, and choose something that you can go and find a lot of information on. Select a field that you're comfortable with. If it's one that you feel uncomfortable discussing, don't use it. If it's an industry that you have no idea about, don't use it. At least understand something about the industry before you start selecting it. Get familiar with the industry on the government website. Go to the census website as well as the general U.S. website for the federal government, and start looking for information the government has about it. You might find some really interesting things there that may change the nature of how you do your research. Finally, find an industry with at least 2 or 3 big players who are well-known publicly traded companies. There are some industries that are possible for you that don't have as many good, big players out there, ones that you don't know those companies very well. If you don't know the companies behind the industry, within the industry, it's not an industry that you want to spend your time on. So, this is just a brief discussion here, but I hope it helps you as you're trying to select an industry for the paper for this semester. Take care.